Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're breaking down one of the most successful branding stories ever created. It's also one of the most harmful. The Marlboro brand is worth nearly $58 billion today, making it the most valuable tobacco brand in the world. But this story didn't begin with dominance. It began with a mistake. Marlboro started as a cigarette made for women. It held less than 1% market share, and it was completely mispositioned for the market it needed to win. So how did a weak brand with the wrong image and the wrong audience become a global giant? To answer that, we'll break down the Marlboro Man case study using clear business thinking, looking at positioning, brand strategy, and the decisions that changed everything. Let's start with a fundamental concept called STP: segmentation, targeting, and positioning. In the 1920s, Marlboro segmented smokers by gender. It targeted women specifically, and it positioned itself as mild as May. Even the product design supported this positioning: ivory tips and red filters to hide lipstick stains. From a strategy point of view, this was internally consistent. But here's the problem. A strategy can be clear and still be wrong. Marlboro's target segment was too small, and worse, it created an image that blocked future growth. This brings us to another key concept: brand positioning. Brands don't compete only on products, they compete in the customer's mind. If you draw a perceptual map with masculine on one side and feminine on the other, strong on one axis and mild on the other, Marlboro was stuck in the feminine mild corner. Once a brand is locked into a perception, advertising alone can't fix it. This is known as a positioning trap. In the 1950s, the external environment changed dramatically. Scientific studies began linking smoking to serious health risks. From a PESTLE perspective, two forces shifted: social attitudes toward health and legal pressure around safety and disclosure. Men suddenly wanted filtered cigarettes. This should have helped Marlboro, but because of its positioning, men refused to touch it. This is a classic case where environmental change creates opportunity, but only for brands that are positioned correctly. Philip Morris now faced a strategic decision. Should they adjust Marlboro slightly, or should they reposition it completely? Repositioning means changing what your brand stands for in the customer's mind. Marlboro chose the most extreme version: complete identity replacement. They erased the old image instead of trying to soften it. This is high-risk repositioning, but sometimes it's the only option. The new identity was built around a brand archetype. An archetype is a universally understood character that carries meaning instantly. Marlboro chose the cowboy archetype. The cowboy symbolized independence, strength, freedom, and self-reliance. This wasn't accidental. Archetypes bypass logic and go straight to emotion. In one move, Marlboro destroyed its feminine image and replaced it with hyper-masculinity. Here's another crucial concept: value proposition. Competitors sold functional benefits: filters, safety, technology. Marlboro sold emotional value. They didn't explain the filter. They didn't show science. They sold a lifestyle. This is called lifestyle branding, when the product becomes a symbol of who you are. In markets where products are similar, emotional differentiation wins. Marlboro didn't just rely on imagery. They focused on brand authenticity. They used real cowboys instead of actors. Darrell Winfield wore his own clothes and used his own horses. Authenticity increases brand credibility, and credibility makes emotional positioning believable. Initially, Marlboro tested multiple masculine images: soldiers, athletes, workers. Then they looked at the data. Sales spiked when the cowboy appeared, so they removed everything else. This is an example of data-driven brand focus, doubling down on what works and eliminating noise. The results were explosive. Within a year, Marlboro became a top 4 brand in the US. By 1972, it was #1 globally. Then came the 1971 advertising ban. This created what strategists call a regulatory moat. New competitors couldn't build brand identity through TV anymore. Marlboro had already done the work. The leader stayed the leader. Now comes the hardest concept to discuss: business ethics.
The Marlboro Man symbolized health and strength, but at least 4 men who played him died from smoking-related diseases. The very men who were the face of perfect health became the ultimate tragic symbols of how deadly this product really was. And one of those men, Wayne McLaren, actually spent the last years of his life fighting against the tobacco industry. His final words are just a chilling warning about the very image he helped build.
This exposes the ethical conflict between brand power and social responsibility. And as people got smarter about the dangers, the walls started closing in from a regulatory standpoint. You get warning labels required on boxes. Then, cigarette ads get banned from TV and radio altogether. Now, for a business, these aren't just cultural changes. These are huge operational challenges. It forced them to pivot to things like print ads and event sponsorships. And it was really the beginning of decades of lawsuits and intense brand risk management. A journalist named Jim Carrier, who spent a whole year looking into this campaign, put it pretty bluntly. He said the so-called marketing brilliance was really just a cynical hijacking of a beloved American icon to sell death.
And that right there is the core paradox of the Marlboro Man. On one side, it's a monumental achievement in marketing. It's a case study that will be taught for 100 years. But on the other side, that success led to catastrophic brand damage, billions in lawsuits, and a legacy of addiction and death. The Marlboro Man is one of the greatest branding successes ever, but it's also a warning. It proves that positioning shapes perception. Stories override facts, and brands can change culture. And it reminds us that strategy without ethics can cause real harm. That's why this case still matters. If you found this breakdown valuable, like the video and subscribe to IMM MBA Lab.